My son's birthday should have felt warm, loud, uncomplicated, balloons tied to chair legs, frosting smudged on small faces, the kind of day that leaves a soft imprint on memory. Instead, the room felt tight the moment we arrived at my parents' house, as if the walls already knew something I didn't. I'm Lena, 34, and I've learned that family gatherings often turn into quiet tests disguised as celebrations. The presents were stacked neatly on the table, my son hovering close, excitement twitching through his fingers. He's gentle, patient, the kind of child who asks before touching anything that isn't his. My niece, on the other hand, 8 years old, confident in ways only children raised on entitlement can be, marched straight to the gift pile. Before I could step forward, she tore open the biggest box. My son's eyes widened. He didn't say a word. "Oh," she shrieked, pulling out the brand new iPhone I'd saved for months to buy. She held it above her head like a trophy. "Mine now." The room erupted in laughter. Uncles, cousins, even my sister. My son shrank beside me, shoulders folding inward. I waited for someone, anyone, to correct her. No one did. My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Don't make a scene, Lena. It's just an iPhone. Just an iPhone. Just my child. Just another bruise they expected me to swallow." I knelt beside my son, pressing a kiss into his hair. "Sure," I murmured softly, not to them but to him. A promise, not acceptance. The day continued, loud and careless, but something inside me settled cold and certain. That night, after the guests left, I stepped into the driveway holding my mother's car keys I paid for monthly. I lifted them gently, letting them dangle. "Mine now," I whispered. "Relax. It's just a car." The keys glinted beneath the porch light, swinging lightly between my fingers. A small, metallic gesture. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. But the sound they made, that soft clink against my palm, felt like a line finally drawn. Inside, the house had settled into its usual late-night hush. The dishwasher humming, the faint creak of pipes, the quiet after people finished telling themselves they did nothing wrong. I stood on the driveway for a moment, breathing in the cool air, letting the calm settle fully before stepping back inside. My mother was in the kitchen rinsing plates, wine glass in hand, her posture relaxed. Too relaxed for someone who had watched a child's heart break hours earlier. She didn't notice me at first. Or maybe she didn't expect me to come back without tears. "Mom?" I said softly. She glanced over her shoulder. "What now, Lena? Don't start. It's been a long day." I lifted the keys slightly. "I'll be taking the car tonight." Her eyebrows lifted. "My car." I kept my voice level. "Yes. Mine now." She blinked, confused. "What do you mean yours?" "That's my vehicle." I gave a quiet nod. "Relax. It's just a car. One I pay for. Insurance, maintenance, every monthly bill. Remember?" The realization hit her slowly, color draining from her face as if someone had pulled a curtain. "Lena, don't be petty. That's different." "Is it?" I asked. "Because today you watched your granddaughter steal from my son. You watched him shrink. And when I spoke up, you told me not to make a scene." She opened her mouth, then closed it, the truth settling in like unwelcome weight. "I'm simply following your rules," I said. "No scenes. No fuss. Just taking what's mine." The keys chimed softly again. My mother reached for them but stopped halfway, hesitating for the first time all night. My mother's hand hovered in the space between us, fingers slightly curled, unsure whether to reach forward or pull away. She wasn't used to hesitation, especially not when it came to me. I'd spent years absorbing her sharp edges, smoothing moments so gatherings wouldn't crumble, making myself small so others could stay comfortable. Tonight I didn't shrink. "Lena," she finally said, her voice low, almost pleading, "don't do this. You're overreacting." It was a child's mistake. Behind her, the living room lights were still on. Wrapping paper and torn ribbons lay scattered across the floor, a battlefield of carelessness. My son's empty gift spot sat in the corner like a shadow no one else noticed. "It wasn't just a mistake," I said. "It was a moment that told my child he doesn't matter here." My mother exhaled sharply. "You're being dramatic." There it was, the word they always leaned on when they didn't want to face their own behavior. I stepped calmly past her, toward the hallway closet, retrieving my son's backpack and my coat. The house felt smaller with every breath, walls tightening with old patterns I no longer wanted to wear. "Where are you going?" she demanded. "Home," I said simply. "With my kids. And my car." Her voice cracked on the last word, fear creeping in. "Yes," I replied. "With your car." The keys swung lightly again, their rhythm quiet but decisive. My niece appeared in the doorway, still clutching the stolen iPhone. Smugness faded into uncertainty. Even she sensed the shift. Children always feel the weight before adults acknowledge it. My mother took a step closer. "Lena, don't leave like this." "I'm leaving exactly like this," I said softly, calmly, clearly, and without pretending this family didn't humiliate my son today. Her lips parted, but no words followed. She wasn't used to consequences dressed in quiet. My father entered just then, drawn by the tension he could always sense but never truly understand. He glanced from me to the keys in my hand, to my mother's unsettled expression. His brows knit, not with concern for me, but with irritation that the night wasn't ending neatly. "What's going on?" he asked, voice flat. Before my mother could speak, I answered. "I'm taking the kids home. And I'm taking the car." His eyes narrowed. "You can't just take your mother's vehicle." I met his gaze evenly. "I can't. I've been paying for it entirely for 2 years." His jaw tightened. "That's not the point." "It's exactly the point," I said softly. Silence stretched, taut and brittle. My mother stepped toward him like she needed backup. "Tell her she's being unreasonable. Tell her she can't just walk out on Christmas." But something in my father shifted as he looked at me, the steadiness in my posture, the keys glinting, the absence of apology in my voice. He wasn't used to this version of me. "Lena," he said calmer now, "let's talk this through." I shook my head. "I tried to talk earlier. When my son was humiliated. When everyone laughed at him. When Mom dismissed the whole thing as just an iPhone." I swallowed, the memory tightening something in my chest. "But you all decided his feelings didn't matter." My son's small footsteps padded toward us. He stood beside me, quiet but taller somehow, as if the truth had given him a spine he wasn't allowed to have before. My father's gaze softened when he looked at him. Just for a second. "Grandpa," my son whispered, "I wanted that birthday." "And you laughed." It broke something in the room. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father exhaled sharply, a kind of remorse flickering in his eyes. But flickers weren't enough. I opened the front door, letting the cold air wash in. "We're done for tonight," I said. And the sound of that boundary was louder than any scene I could have made. My parents stood there, still, uncertain, struggling to understand how the night had slipped out of their hands. They weren't used to consequences. They were used to endurance. My sons. The quiet expectation that we would swallow discomfort because family comes first. But tonight, family wasn't the shield. It was the wound. As I helped my daughter into her jacket, my niece lingered in the hallway, the iPhone still clutched in both hands. Her earlier triumph had evaporated. She looked at me the way children do when they sense something larger moving around them. Unsure, uneasy. "Aunt Lena," she whispered. "Are you mad?" I crouched down to her level. "No," I said gently. "But today wasn't fair. Not to my son. Not to you either." She blinked, confused. "To me?" "Yes. Because you're learning that taking things gets you applause. But that won't help you later." Her face softened, confusion turning into something like understanding. I stood again. My son slipped his hand into mine without being asked. My mother finally found her voice. "Lena, please. Just leave the car and stay. We'll talk in the morning." The car. Always the car first. The symbol of everything they took for granted. I held the keys tighter. "Mom, the car is a fraction of what I've given. But today made one thing clear. You expect generosity without respect." Her face flushed, not in anger but in shame. My father stepped forward, quieter than before. "If you go, will you at least call tomorrow?" "Maybe," I said. "But it'll depend on whether tomorrow looks different than today." He nodded slowly, absorbing the condition rather than rejecting it. My son looked up at me. "Mom, can we go now?" "Yes," I whispered. "We're going." As we stepped out into the cold, the door behind us stayed open, my parents standing there not with defiance but with something they rarely showed. Worry that I might finally mean my exit. The air outside felt sharper now, not biting, but clarifying. As if the cold itself approved of the decision. My kids walked beside me down the driveway, their breaths rising like small ghosts in the night air. My son held tightly to my sleeve, his steps steadier with each one we took away from the house. I pressed the key fob. My mother's car chirped and flashed, headlights sweeping across the snow. I opened the back door for the kids, helping them climb in, tucking the blankets I kept in the trunk around their laps. Behind us, my parents hovered in the doorway, No longer demanding, no longer laughing, no longer amused by the entitlement of a child who had shouted "mine now" at someone else's birthday gift. My father stepped out onto the porch first. "Lena," he called softly, "we shouldn't have laughed. It wasn't right." My hand paused on the driver's door. Honesty from him was rare. But regret didn't erase the impact. My mother followed, arms wrapped around herself. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, then stopped, catching herself. "No. I didn't realize how badly it hurt him." I turned toward them fully now. It didn't just hurt him. It taught him something. That his happiness can be taken. That adults will laugh when he's humiliated. That he shouldn't expect protection. My mother's face folded inward at that. My son leaned forward in his seat. "Grandma," he said softly, "you didn't even tell her to give it back." Silence thickened between us, heavier than the snow. My father swallowed. "What do you want from us, Lena? Tell us." I closed the door partway, leaving a narrowed frame between us. "I want accountability," I said. "I want respect. I want my kids to feel safe around people who claim to love them." "And the car?" my mother whispered. I met her eyes. "Tonight it's a reminder." Her breath hitched, a soft unraveling. And then quietly, "We deserve that." For the first time that night, my mother didn't look defensive. She looked aware. As if something had finally pierced the bubble she'd lived in for years, a world where her comfort mattered more than anyone else's feelings. She stepped down from the porch, snow crunching lightly under her slippers. "Lena," she said, voice softer now, "don't shut us out. We messed up. We really did." My father joined her, hands in his coat pockets, breath fogging in uneven bursts. "Your mom's right. We shouldn't have laughed. And we shouldn't have dismissed you." My son peeked through the window, chin resting on his jacket collar. He wasn't scared anymore, just watching. Listening. Learning. I kept my voice even. "This isn't about punishment. It's about patterns. You've ignored moments like this for years." My mother nodded slowly, shame settling like frost along her features. "I know. I thought things were harmless, that kids will be kids. They copy adults," I said. "My niece didn't learn entitlement alone. She learned it by watching what gets excused." My father exhaled deeply, the sound more weary than defensive. "So what now?" "No." Such a small word for such a wide question. "Now," I said, "you learn the same lesson I teach my kids. Actions have consequences." My mother swallowed hard. "Does that mean you're cutting us off?" "No," I replied. "It means things won't go back to normal just because you're uncomfortable. You'll have to earn trust. Especially with my children." The truth settled between us gently, not as a weapon but as clarity. My daughter leaned toward me. "Mom? Are we still going home?" "Yes," I said softly. My father stepped forward one last time. "Will we see you again?" "When consistency replaces apologies," I answered. They both nodded, small, humble gestures. And for the first time in years, they looked like people, not walls. I got into the driver's seat slowly, not out of hesitation, but because endings like this deserve a moment, a breath before the shift. My kids were quiet in the back, bundled in blankets, their faces illuminated softly by the dashboard glow. My son watched me with a steadiness that felt older than his years. "Mom," he said, "are they mad?" I shook my head gently. "No. They're learning." He nodded as if that answer made perfect sense. I glanced back toward the house. My parents stood on the porch, side by side, not shouting, not demanding, not pretending nothing happened. They looked small under the porch light, humbled by the simplicity of consequence, something they had expected me to live with, but never expected to experience themselves. My mother lifted a hand, not waving, just acknowledging. My father shifted his weight, uncertain, uncomfortable, aware this time of what his silence had cost. I rolled the window down a few inches. Cold air flowed in, crisp and honest. "Lena," my mother called softly, "can we try again?" "Not tonight. But soon." It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't performance. It was an invitation to rebuild something they'd cracked with years of entitlement. I nodded once. Trying is allowed. Repeating isn't. My father bowed his head slightly, a gesture I had never seen from him. Understood. I put the car in gear. The headlights cut across the snow as I backed down the driveway.